But I'm noticing that a lot of folks are asking, is this prolapse safe? So I'll get that question a lot, whether it's on a video that I have on YouTube or just a particular, move that I'm doing. Somebody will say, is it prolapse safe? Can I do this? In general, here's a few kind of tips to keep in mind. If the move requires like a forward fold, I love to use the decompression breath. So that's where you lift your pelvic floor and you pull in your abs as you exhale and fold. So that's just a very simple tip. Any type of forward fold, you decompress that downward pressure on your pelvic floor by lifting your pelvic floor, pulling your abs in, and exhaling as you fold. It's a really simple trick. Another simple trick is anything that may kind of encourage you to slouch. You don't want to slouch, and so you want to keep your spine tall and lifted. It's another thing to keep in mind. So there's certain moves that people have asked me about. Like the other day on one of my reels, I was showing a triceps push-up or a triceps dip off the edge of my step. I do this almost every day when I go on my walks, before and after my walks usually. And they asked, is this prolapse safe? Sure, but the thing is, if you compromise your spine by kind of being hunchy and roundy, or if you are not engaged in your pelvic floor and your core to support your back and support everything, if you're not breathing, if you're holding your breath, then all of those things will make it potentially pelvic floor unfriendly or unsafe for your pelvic floor, unsafe for your prolapse, or any condition that you may have. So the two things that I've said so far are the decompression breath when you do your forward folds, keeping your spine long, don't compromise your posture, and keep breathing, and always exhale with exertion. Beyond that, again, it really comes down to your level of prolapse, your body awareness, your strength, or if you have different levels of flexibility, you may not be able to do certain moves. One example is one of my favorite moves, the frog squat. I love this move, and actually I think it can be wonderful for people with prolapse because of the way it activates the inner thighs and the pelvic floor. But you have to have a certain amount of flexibility to be able to do it successfully. And also somebody with really severe prolapse is probably not going to be able to do it it's not going to feel right, and it potentially could aggravate their condition. So that's why I like to give an alternative. I'm going to show you what I mean. This is the frog squat. I'll go back so you can see it. So it's like this, and then, so like this, and then, and an alternative, if that's too much, would be feet together, heels together, and then just standing up. Because as you can see with that move, you've really got to have flexibility to be able to keep your spine long and your back, in a good position. And you've got to have that body awareness to do the decompression breath correctly, to, just get that breathing down right. You've got to have a lot of things and that you might need to build up to. And so if you do a move and it doesn't feel quite right in your body, it's really, really important to listen to your body, because I can say, sure, that move for me is prolapse safe. From my level of, I don't have significant prolapse anymore. It doesn't bother me, but I did have prolapse. I've healed my prolapse. And I do, when I'm, around the time of my period, things tend to get a little heavier feeling. And so I have to watch that. So I have to be really, really careful and kind of baby myself during that time to prevent that real heavy feeling from getting worse. And so I know that I can do that move even when I'm in that time of the month, but other people might not be able to do it safely. So again, it's really dependent on the person. So just to wrap it up, kind of my general go-to tips are, for the question, is this prolapse safe? Does it involve super, super heavy weights, and lifting heavy weights, and you're not prepared for it? Well, if so, then it's probably not prolapse safe, because yes, you can probably lift weights again, but when you're just starting out, it's not the safest idea to be lifting crazy weights. Okay? Does it involve super, super high impact? If so, then it's probably not prolapse safe, at least when you're starting out. Okay? I'm giving the caveat that everything can change. You can get better, but it takes time and care, and everyone's different. And some people are going to require surgery if the prolapse is just too far advanced. Some people are going to require using a pessary. Some people are, going to have different outcomes than others. But in general, There's a lot you can do. There's a lot you can do on your own to improve your condition. And so you might be able to run again. You might be able to jump and lift weights and all those wonderful things again. But when you're just starting out, heavy weights and high impact are probably not so prolapse safe. Beyond that, pretty much everything can be made prolapse safe as long as you're keeping your breathing in mind, your posture in mind, you're using the decompression breath, you are listening to your body, you're watching for signs that it's not working for you, you're pretty much good to go, you know? So I hope that helps and makes you feel a little bit more comfortable or a little bit less scared, a little bit more willing to tune into your body and your needs. And just know that when I show like a reel, one of those little reels on Instagram, I'm just showing some of the moves that I like to do. And when you ask me, is this prolapse safe? The answer is always going to be the same. It's basically yes, if you listen to your body, if you tune into your needs, if you do your breathing right, if you watch your posture, and mostly if you just tune into you. So kind of an unsatisfactory answer potentially, but it's the answer I have. So I hope that helps. I'm going to read, I see that I have some comments. And hi there, this is from Mizzy70, do you have a prolapse safe move for the upper abdominals? Okay, so just to answer that question again, like I said earlier, prolapse safe is kind of a tough one because you can pretty much make any move prolapse safe as long as you're doing it right. So when you're working the upper abs, you want to be sure you're working the pelvic floor and the lower abs too, because when you overwork the upper abs, so the upper abs meaning the more like the obliques, the waist whittlers, and the six-pack muscles, the rectus abdominis, if you overwork those strong prime mover muscles without activating the pelvic floor and the low abs first, it can cause a lot of downward pressure on your pelvic organs and your pelvic floor, and that can contribute to prolapse. It can make prolapse worse if everything's kind of squeezing down without that activation from the bottom up first. So my key for you there, Nizzy, would be that you can make pretty much any exercise prolapse safe. You just have to do it right. So if you're wanting to do, like, for example, like a standing oblique crunch, like this move here, which is working your rectus abdominis, your six-pack muscles, because you're doing a flexion of your trunk, and it's also working your obliques because you're doing this twist, right? But, so it's an upper ab move for sure. To keep it prolapse safe, what do? We breathe, and we make sure we engage our pelvic floor first. So we lift our pelvic floor, pull in those low abs to help protect from below while all that work is happening from above. So lifting your pelvic floor, pulling in your low abs, and exhaling as you do that standing crunch is going to help make that move prolapse safe. So you can make any move prolapse safe. I mean, again, not any move. I don't want somebody who's newly diagnosed with prolapse to go, run a marathon and jump up a whole bunch of steps and then jump down a whole bunch of steps. That would just not be wise. But other than that, you can pretty much craft any other move. You can use those basic techniques about engaging your pelvic floor and low abs, those deep core muscles, lifting everything, keeping whatever posture you're meant to have for that move. I mean, in general, a long posture is nice. For that particular move I just showed, you are rounding your back, but you are preventing the roundy hunchiness from going boom, like down on your pelvic floor, by counteracting it with the lift of the pelvic floor muscles and the pulling in of the low abs. Okay, Mizzy says, brilliant, thank you, so good. I'm glad that helped. Okay, cool. Well, I'm going to keep this short and sweet, and I just